Crash Site is a multiplayer level I created for the indie retro shooter Prodeus. The level is set in and around the twisted, burning wreckage of a recently crashed spaceship. The interior portion of the ship rests at a slight incline, which feels uncanny in just the right way and creates an image of a violent crash in a way that integrates directly into the gameplay of the map. The first step of my design process was crafting a distinct identity that shapes the map's gameplay and visual elements. I experimented with a number of different concepts, but the idea of setting a map in a crashed ship stood out to me especially because the theme directly bleeds into the gameplay elements of the level. The slanted and broken portions of the map create an almost organic feeling and form the perfect environment for fast-paced flanking routes. To encourage risky playstyles, I place powerful items in locations that put players into danger. This rewards players who are willing to go on the offensive and take risks, which reinforces my vision of the map as a fast-paced environment. After blocking it out, I put the map through a cycle of playtesting and iteration, which allowed me to gain insight into the main friction points of the level. For example, this first early version of the map doesn't provide any spaces that create long-range encounters, which leads to a somewhat one-dimensional combat dynamic. I remedied this by extending the outer section of the map, which creates distinctly different gameplay from the close quarters of the ship's interior. The ship's two-floor layout is designed to provide the opportunity for quick flanking loops. The weapons available on the map specifically encourage a mix of close-range and long-range encounters, which keeps combat feeling fresh. This is supported by carefully placed rocks that are positioned to break up sightlines that would be too distant or awkward. Over the course of the level design process, innumerable changes were made not only just to improve the gameplay spaces, but also to smooth out the map's pathways by tweaking inconveniently placed debris and using clipping. When tackling the art for the level, I quickly learned that a major challenge of creating a map that portrays a broken environment like this is readability. The environment art of the ship needs to sell the idea that the ship crashed violently into the planet's surface, but needs to do so in a way that isn't too noisy, so that players don't struggle to navigate its interior. Early in the map's development, I noticed that players struggle to quickly identify where they are and locate all the available routes. To combat this, I gave different areas distinctive colors and used bright contrasting lights to highlight paths that the player can take. The map's environment art paints a picture of the crash through cracked portions of the ship, bent metal, and a number of visual effects like sparks and fire. Missing parts of the ship can be found scattered around the scenery of the level, including one of the ship's thrusters that can be found sinking into a lake of tar behind the ship. A power generator that has been connected to the wreckage provides open-ended environmental storytelling that subtly hints to the player that the crash might have had survivors, or maybe someone is trying to recover priceless data that was stored on the ship. The biggest thing I can improve about the artwork of the map is my texture usage, which at times is piecemeal. I would have loved to have retextured the ship, but unfortunately I didn't have the time. I've been much more deliberate in being consistent with my texture usage in projects since. For reference, here are some areas I detailed on my next project. Following the game's release, many more matches have been played on the map, and it's received a lot of feedback. In hindsight, my biggest oversight was definitely the amount of health on the map, which easily could have been doubled. It's definitely far from perfect, but overall, the process of testing and refining the map created a polished, fun deathmatch experience. I'm extremely grateful to the game's head level designer for giving me the opportunity to design a level for the game. I learned a lot from the experience, and I will continue to strive to make better maps.